Some big moves have been made in the U.S. Treasury market, including one with Donald Trump that might show that he knows what's about to happen tomorrow at Jackson Hole during Jerome Powell's speech. Now, today, I'm going to uncover why it seems that Donnie T knows the next move and why the U.S. Treasury all of a sudden has been very closely connected to what the hell is going on. First, let's dive in to what we saw here earlier today, where it was uncovered that the U.S. Treasury just bought $4 billion worth of its own debt, one of the largest buybacks in history. So I guess this is more of a routine operation and is not one of the largest buybacks in history. But still, it is still one of the major news that we've seen. Outside of that, what we've seen from Donald Trump, this is what is interesting. Trump has snapped up more than $100 million in bonds since coming into office. Now, for those of you sitting at home who are maybe unaware of what the bond market all entails and what this move could potentially entail, is bonds generally go up when interest rates come down. So with Donald Trump, he's been pushing. He's been literally yelling at Jerome Powell from the top of his lungs, cut interest rates, cut interest rates, cut interest rates. We haven't seen JP do it just yet. Well, why has Donald Trump been doing that? He seems to be maybe financially motivated. And look, I'm a Trump guy. I think he's one of the best businessmen on the planet. But this makes things look a little hairy here when he's potentially looking to fill his own bags. Look, he has been a huge proponent of crypto too, and he's created his own crypto token. I've got my own opinions on that. That's a full nother video. But, spending at least $100 million in bonds since taking office is not the best look, let's call it. And purchasing debt issued by local governments, school loans, Trump bought corporate debt issued by Meta, Home Depot, and T-Mobile. So companies and entities issued these bonds to raise capital for reasons including refinancing debt and funding projects to boost liquidity. So what is Donnie T doing here? Is he using this to help bring back, some of these people into the United States? Or, with this buying $100 million of bonds, is he betting on these giant rate cuts cutting soon? And I wouldn't be surprised if he, is potentially betting on these rate cuts coming soon. I mean, let's be honest here. If we look at the CME group, right, we're jumping a little ahead from the normal order. We're still at a 75% chance to cut interest rates in just about a month. But for those of you guys who keep coming, please hit that subscribe button. I know 95% of you guys are not subscribed, but those of you guys who keep coming, you know that this number was at like 95% a couple weeks ago. I mean, look at this. 1 week ago at 92%. Now we've seen it drop 17%. A 17-point swing is a good bit when it comes to the amount if the Fed is going to cut interest rates or not. I mean, look at that. It's kind of crazy we're seeing such a dramatic, move like this. But it's still more likely than not that the Fed is going to cut interest rates here in the next, next 26, 27 days, right? So in just about 4 weeks, the Fed is most likely going to cut if nothing dramatically changes right now. Now, man, I feel like I just got this haircut and I got these like freaking nose, these hairs all up in my nose from my mustache going on here. But anyway, either way, what we're seeing is traders are reducing the bet on 2 rate cuts this year. All eyes are on Powell and that Jackson Hole speech that I said tomorrow. So there's going to be a lot of speculation on what Powell is going to be doing. And for those of you guys on Twitter or even just in message boards or on the internet in general, everybody's going to be hanging on every single word he says. They're going to be hanging on what color tie he's going to be wearing. There's going to be a lot of fluff and what we could be potentially seeing tomorrow. And markets are going to react violently in either direction. So it really is just dependent on what Powell has to say. And, as I like to say, and as Kanye West once famously said, how could one man have so much power? I mean, the tone of voice that Jerome Powell uses when he's coming and talking about all this stuff is going to swing markets. There's no way around that. And so we need to be very cautious when it comes to that and just understand that this is the game that we're all playing. The markets are very forward looking. And so the market changing its projection to only 2 interest rate cuts this year is very interesting, right? So Donald Trump now purchasing those 100 million in bonds. I would probably want to fire Jerome Powell too if I purchased this much in bonds and the guy keeps holding on to it, right? I mean, he's been publicly shaming Powell for quite some time and hits the Fed Reserve Chair Powell over the housing industry's latest attack, blasting mortgage rates. I mean, for those of you guys my goodness. Trump has been, openly just yelling at Jerome Powell as seemingly every chance he gets because of how poor the housing market is done. And, for those of you guys following this channel, that I've been talking about how bad the housing market has looked lately. I mean, we have data coming out that's at 30-year lows. You don't see that very often and think, all right, this is a healthy economy. We see data that's coming out that's at 50-year lows. You don't see that and you think, all right, this is a healthy housing market, healthy economy, right? So it's very interesting of what is going on in that sector of things. And people always like to equate it to mortgage rates. I like to, dig a little bit underneath the hood. And I think it's mortgage rates on top of, the job security, wages being down, inflation being up, all of these different obstacles here that make home buying a little bit tougher. And on top of it, the US dollar having one of the worst starts in history, honestly, on par with since the US dollar went off the gold standard. And so when we see the dollar going off the gold standard like it is, well, you start to find it hard to believe. Now, last time I was on here, I was showing the US debt clock, and one of the guys in the chat was saying he doesn't trust the US debt clock, which is fair. But I mean, what we are seeing is $37.2 trillion worth of debt. Look, I don't think that they're getting that number completely wrong. We all know it's over that $37 trillion mark. And it's rapidly climbing. I mean, it's insane. I mean, the federal tax revenue just keeps going up, but the GDP is not even close to growing as quickly as the debt. And Trump has been talking about growing its way out of it. But I mean, the S&P 500 and, the market is doing phenomenal comparatively. They are absolutely on a generational run. One of the best 4-month periods ever, coming from April to now, is what we're seeing in the S&P 500. So we're seeing massive ticks up. And McLovin is saying the interest rates aren't the problem with housing market. The houses are way overpriced. Yeah, I mean, when you see the amount of money getting printed as we did in 2020 and 2021, well, those things are just going to get higher and higher, right? I mean, it's just a matter of time before these things just absolutely explode or implode on themselves. I mean, I'm not surprised we're seeing this. I think many of you guys in the chat and watching this, I mean, comment below if you guys think I'm wrong on this, but I mean, the amount of money printing that we saw, it's not a healthy housing market when you see houses literally double in a couple years. And houses get bought hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking price. And you thinking you're going to get that much amount. I mean, it's just absolutely blasphemy. So houses were flying off the shelves like a year ago. And now, everybody's just kind of calmed down a bit, which makes sense. People should have been calming down, right? The market should have never got that bananas. But regardless, the change to 2 Fed rate cuts this year, this is absolutely massive. This is where I think that we're going to start to see, some craziness go on. Now, if Jerome Powell and the Fed only cuts the interest rates twice this year, oh my goodness, is there going to be fireworks? I honestly think if that's the case, if that's what we see, we see Trump and Powell keep on going at it, well, that's going to be, a sign where, hey, we might see Powell get fired by the end of the year. Now, I don't think that he's going to get fired, but this coming down to just 2 instead of 3 rate cuts is going to be very interesting. And especially with what we are seeing with inflation, the PPI increase, and everything else, that is just honestly making this a more complicated job for Jerome Powell. I mean, if I was him, I mean, hell, I would honestly hate having his job, to be honest. Um, there's really no winning in this scenario. So, you got to keep a close eye on all of this. And I'm going to keep this one really short. So make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button. Shout out to McLovin in the chat. And I'll catch you guys all at the next one.